What's going on, guys? It is Chrono here, the Aussie on the Gamers Roundtable channel, with another story time. Now, I said in the last episode that Freak would be here for this one. Initially, I was going to do a couple chapters instead of just two. So, I'm going to be doing this next part as well, but he will be back for chapter 25, I'm pretty sure, is what he'll be on. But we are here with the toll. Now, I am just going to quickly say something. Because I've been reading this with just the blindness set to 11, I decided to go out and get Scythe. And I'm only that far through it, but I'm actually getting a grasp on certain things now that makes sense to me. So this is a really cool book. I'm really liking it. Not that I'm not liking this, I just had no idea. But anyway, without any further ado, let's just kick into it. Get your coffee ready if you've got one. Make sure you got your books ready to read along, or if you're just listening in the background, let's hope you're staying busy. Part 3, Year of the Cobra. There is, I believe, a destiny for us, a glorious culmination of all it means to be human and immortal. Destiny, however, does not come with exhaustive effort and a clear-minded leadership. The year of the raptor was devastating to us all, but by the year of the ibex, we had begun to heal. The year of the quokka saw us further aligning our ideals and priorities as scythes. Now, on the first day of this year, I see only hope for the first days ahead. Here at this first Continental Conclave, I wish to publicly thank Highblades Pickford of West America, Hammerstein of East America, Tizok of Mexica, and McPhail of Northern Reach for their faith in me. That they, and you, the scythe under them, have chosen me to shepherd North America as your Continental Overblade is beyond validation. It is a clear mandate to push forward with our New Order objective. Together we will create a world that is not only perfect, but also pristine. A world where the broad and powerful swath of each scythe brings us ever closer to that singular goal. I know that there are those still among you, like the recalcitrant Lone Star region, are not sure that mine is the right path. The uneasy among you look for method in the madness, as they say. But I ask you, is it madness to want to lift the human species to new heights? Is it wrong to have a vision of the future as crystal clear and finely cut as the diamonds in our hands? Of course not. I wish to make it clear that your Highblades will not be abdicating their positions. They will still be stewards of your respected regions, responsible for local administration. However, they will now be free from the burden of more cumbersome policy decisions. Those larger issues are left to me, and I promise that I will live for no other purpose but to lead you tirelessly into the future. From the Ascension Address of His Excellency, Overblade Robert Goddard. January 1st, Year of the Cobra. Chapter 24, Rats in a Ruin. Fort St. Jean and Fort St. Nicholas were built on either side of the entrance to the port of Marseille, in what was now the Franco-Colombian region of Europe. What was odd about these forts, built by King Louis XIV, was not the fact that they had large cannons, but that those cannons were not aimed toward the sea to protect the fort from invaders. Instead, they were pointed inland, toward the bustling city of Marseille, to protect the king's interests from a public uprising. Robert Goddard, Overblade of North America, had taken a page from King Louis's book and mounted heavy artillery in the 68th floor garden around his crystal shallot, aiming down at the streets of Fulcrum City below. They were installed long before his ascension to Overblade, shortly after he announced that the toll had been gleaned. He had thought that gleaning their so-called profit would stand as a warning to Tonus the world is over, and a reminder that if scythes were not respected, they should be feared instead. Tonus went from a persistent nuisance to a growing danger. This is nothing we didn't expect, Goddard claimed. Change will always face resistance, but we must forge forward in spite of it. Never once did Goddard consider that the escalation in violence against the scythedoms of the world was brought on by his order to glean the toll. Your greatest flaw, Underscythe Constantine dared to tell him, is that you fail to understand the concept of martyrdom. He would have banished Constantine on the spot if that man hadn't been needed to bring the stubborn Lone Star region in line with the rest of North America. That region had become a refuge for Tonus now. It serves Texas right, Goddard proclaimed. let it be overrun by them like rats in a ruin. The Overblade's crystalline shallot had changed over the past few years. Not just the city-aimed weaponry, but the crystal itself was different. Goddard had had the outer glass reinforced and acid-treated, so that it could no longer be seen through. The result was that when you were in the shallot, it appeared day or night. The Fulcrum City was shrouded in perpetual fog. Goddard was convinced that the Tonus had spy drones. He was convinced that other forces were banding against him as well. He was convinced that unfriendly regions were aiding these forces. Whether or not any of those things were true didn't matter. He acted as if they were, which meant it was Goddard's truth. And what was true for Goddard became true for the world, or at least every part of the world where he had smuggled his indelible fingerprint. Things will settle, he told nearly 2,000 Scythes who had gathered for the first Continental Conclave. People will get used to the way things are, see that it is for the best, and they will settle. But until then, the windows shall remain fogged. The troublesome would be gleaned, and the silent guns would point resolutely at the city below. Goddard was still reeling from the botched Amazonian raid. Highblade Pickford had failed to apprehend Scythe Anastasia. It wasn't the first time that she disappointed him, but there was not much he could do about her. At least, not now. Goddard did foresee a time when he would appoint the Highblades of other North American regions, rather than leaving it to the unpredictable voting process in conclaves. Pickford's saving grace was that she did manage to catch Rowan Damish, who was at this point very instant on his way to Fulcrum City. That would have to suffice until the girl was apprehended. Hopefully Anastasia would be so consumed by running and hiding that she wouldn't be able to make much trouble. In retrospect, he should have maintained a perimeter of reverence in the waters above Endura. He had been warned that a salvage might reveal evidence of what really happened. He never dreamed it might lead to this. The morning brought other business, and Goddard had to put aside his frustrations, which was much harder to do than it used to be. Highblade Shires of Rothshelf is on his way up, with a sizable entourage, Anastasia Franklin informed him. And are they of one mind? Rand quipped. Goddard chuckled slightly, but Franklin never gave Rand the slightest of courtesy laughs. Their minds are less important than the crates they're carrying, she said. Goddard met them in the conference room after making them wait 5 minutes, because Goddard always wanted to make sure his guests, even his important ones, knew that his schedule mattered more than theirs. "Nobu," said Goddard, and went over to Highblade Shiraz like an old friend. "A pleasure to see you. How are things in Antarctica?" "Is life but a dream?" offered Rand. "On occasion," said Shiraz, missing the slight on the unique nature of his region. "But only when we have to row our own boats, I suppose." Now Anastasia Franklin offered up a courtesy laugh, but it created more tension than it dispersed. Goddard glanced at the crates, each held by a member of the Blade Guard. There were only 8 of them. Other regions came with at least 10 crates, but the lower number could simply mean that they were more densely packed. "To what do I owe this visit, Your Excellency?" Goddard asked, as if everyone there didn't already know. "On behalf of the Rothschild region, I'd like to present you with a gift. It is our hope that it will formalize our relationship with you." Then he nodded to the Blade Guards, who placed the crates on the conference table and opened them. As expected, the crates were full of Scythe diamonds. "These represent Rothshelf's share of the diamonds raised from the ruins of Endura," Shiraz said. "Impressive," said Goddard. "Are those all of them?" "All of them, yes." Goddard looked over at the sparkling contents, then turned to Shiraz. "I accept your gift with humility and honor, in the spirit of friendship with which they were given, and whenever you need gems for the bejeweling of future Scythes, they will be available to you." Then he gestured to the door. "Please follow Anastasia Franklin. He will escort you to my dining room, where I have prepared a brunch for us," Goddard said. Traditional Antarctic fare, as well as regional specialties of Mid-America. A feast to consummate our friendship. I'll be along momentarily, and we'll discuss issues of concern to both our regions. Franklin escorted him out just as Nietzsche entered. "Give me good news, Freddy," Goddard said. "Well, we've been tracking Anastasia south," he said. "There's only so far she can go before being concerned in Terra del Fuego." Goddard sighed. "The land of fire will not cooperate. It's up to our efforts to catch her before she gets there. We're doing all we can," Nietzsche said. "Do more," Goddard told them. He turned to Scythe Rand. running her hand through the diamonds in one of the crates. Are we going to count them, or do you trust Shiraz? It's not the number that matters, Anne, but the gesture. The trove we are creating is simply a means to end. A symbol is something far more valuable than diamonds. Even so, Goddard knew he would hurl them into the sea in exchange for having Scythe Anastasia in his hands. Oh! Chapter 25, because that chapter was very short. Sunlight and Shadow. Though helping Anastasia escape Amazonia was fraught with strife, that strife had receded to the horizon behind the Spence, which was now, Jericho mused, no longer a salvage ship, but a rescue vessel. The seas were easy as Amazonia faded behind them, and the sun rose before them. By 9 o'clock all signs of land were gone, and the bright morning sky was dotted with occasional puffs of meandering clouds. Jerry would have much preferred a low cloud cover today, or even better, a soup-thick fog. For if those North Americans thus figured out that Anastasia was travelling by sea, the Spence would be targeted and sunk. Rest assured they won't come after you, Pasuelo had told Jerry. I made sure they intercepted a secret communique I sent, and that they took the bait. As far as the North Americans know, Anastasia is weaving a circuitous route south by train all the way to the Land of Fire, where the Regent's High Blade is supposed to have offered her sanctuary, and to make the story stick, we're leaving glaring traces of her DNA for them to find along the way. It will be days before they realize it's a wild goose chase. It was clever enough. Northern Sides saw Amazonians as too simple to concoct such a ploy, and the Land of Fire, Jerry knew, would be suitably uncooperative with the North Americans. The sights down there were obstreperous to an extreme. At full speed, they would reach safe harbor in just under 3 days. From the bridge, Jerry could see the turquoise figure of Scythe Anastasia at the starboard rail, looking out over the sea. She was not supposed to be alone. Pasuelo had made that clear, and perhaps his paranoia was justified, considering that he had been betrayed by one of his own. Jerry trusted the crew of the Spence implicitly. They had grown fiercely loyal to their captain. Even so, it was always wise to take precautions. The only reason Anastasia would be alone would be if she offered this officer assigned to her out of her presence. The command of a scythe overruled the orders of a captain, sure enough. Jerry saw the officer one deck up, keeping a tight eye on her from a distance. It seemed that the only way to effectively guard the willful scythe was to do it personally. She's going to be a handful, Chief Watton said. To be sure, said Jerry. But a handful of what? We don't know. Misery? Suggested the chief. Perhaps, perhaps not. Then Jerry left the bridge to join her at the rail. She wasn't looking down at the water. She was looking at the horizon. Either it was as if she was gazing at something that wasn't there. Are you contemplating a leap? Jerry asked, breaking what felt like a considerable layer of ice. Should I be worried? Anastasia glanced at Jerry, then returned her gaze to the sea. I got tired of pacing down below, she said. I thought being on the deck might calm me down. Have you heard from Pasuelo? I have. What does he say about Rowan? Jerry took a moment before responding. He didn't say, and I didn't ask. Then he has been captured, Anastasia said, and pounded that rail in frustration. I'm sailing to freedom and he's been captured. Jerry half expected her to order the ship to turn around and go back for him. If she did, they'd have to oblige, for she was a scythe. But she didn't. She was wise enough to know that it would only make matters worse. I cannot, for the life of me, understand your devotion to Scythe Lucifer, Jerry dared to say. You know nothing about it. I know more than you think. I was there with Pasuelo when we opened the vault. I saw you in each other's arms. It was the kind of intimacy not even death could hide. Anastasia averted her gaze. We shed our clothes so the cold would kill us before we suffocated. Jerry smiled. I suspected that is only a half-truth. She turned and considered Jerry for a long moment, then changed the subject. Jericho. That's an unusual name. I seem to recall a Mortal Age story involving a wall coming down. Are you a collapser of walls? You could say I find things in the ruins of walls that have already fallen, Jerry told her. Honestly, though, it's a family name. That has no bearing on the story of Jericho, but if you find it off-putting, you can call me Jerry. Everyone else does. Okay, and what are your pronouns, Jerry? Jerry found it refreshing that she asked so directly. There are still people who are too awkward to ask, as if Jerry was being accidentally ambiguous, and not intentionally so. He, she, they. Pronouns are tiresome and lazy things, Jerry said. I'd much rather call a person by name, but to answer your deeper question, I'm both male and female. It comes with being Madagascan. Anastasia nodded knowingly. You must find us binary people strange and confusing. I did when I was younger. I never met someone born to a single gender until I was well into my teens, but I've come to accept and even appreciate your quirky rigidity. So you see yourself as both. But I imagine there must be times when you're more one than the other. Not only direct but insightful too, Jerry thought. Liking this resurrected Scythe more and more, she asked the right questions. You could say it's dictated by the heavens, Jerry told her. When skies are clear, I choose to be a woman. When they are not, I am a man. Jerry turned to take in the sunlight shimmering on the surface of the sea. It was marked by the shadows of the occasional cloud, but right now the ship did not fall beneath one of those shadows. At this moment in time, I am a woman. I see, she said without the judgment that some might show. My father, who's a scholar of the mortal age, said that the sun is almost always seen as masculine in mythology. And of course, there's the man and the moon. Choosing to be feminine in our light creates balance. There's a natural yin and yang to it. And to you as well, Jerry said. After all, turquoise is symbolically the color of balance. Anastasia smiled. I didn't know that. I chose it because it's the color my brother wanted me to be. An inner shadow seemed to cross her face, a pang at the thought of her brother. Jerry decided it was too personal, a heartache to delve into, and allowed her privacy on the matter. Does it bother you, she asked, to always be at the mercy of the weather? I would think that someone like you would want to be subservient to as few things as possible. Besides, it must be awfully inconvenient on partly cloudy days like this. As if on cue, the sun slipped behind a small cloud, then out again. Jerry laughed. Yes, it can be inconvenient, but I've gotten used to it. I've embraced it even. That unpredictability has become part of who I am. I've often wondered what it would be like to have been born in the Madagascan region, Anastasia said. Not that I'm really interested in being a man, but I wonder what it would have been like to explore both sides when I was too young to know the difference. That's the whole point of it, Jerry told her. And the reason why so many people go to Madagascar as a place to raise their own children. Anastasia considered a few moments. I suppose if I divided my time between land and sea as you do, I might choose to be one way on land and another on sea. That way my gender wouldn't be at the mercy of the winds. Well, I would enjoy your company either way. Anastasia said coyly. Flirting with me in sunlight only makes me wonder if you'd also do that in a storm. One of the benefits of being Madagascan is that we see people as people. When it comes to attraction, gender is never part of the equation. Then Jerry looked up at the light dimmed slightly. You see, the sun has passed behind the cloud again, and nothing has changed. Then Anastasia stepped back from the railing, a gentle smirk still on her face. I think I've had enough of both sunlight and shadows for now. Good day, Captain. Then she turned to go below, a robe fluttering behind her like a loose sail in a gentle breeze. And that was chapter 24 and 25. So, Freak will be back for chapter 26. It's been fun reading for you guys, even though I've had issues with audio. Just trying to get this mic in the right spot today was annoying me. I'm using my DSLR camera because the web camera just had awful quality. Still got Sonic and Tails set up in the background there, except I've just sort of set them up a little differently. And I'm going to continue reading this. But look, if you guys want me to continue story time with maybe my own story time segment, like, you know, reading something of my own, let me know, because I do like doing it. It's just I'm very bad with keeping up with reading and stuff like that, but I really want to get better. I'm actually thinking of reading the dictionary, because some of the words in there, my god, you don't see it because I cut it out, but literally I'll get stuck there for a bit of period because I'm like, what the hell how do I pronounce that? So I'm honestly considering reading the dictionary, because a lot of people say it increases their vocabulary skills, so I might give that a try. But anyway, that was chapter 24 and 25. Topic of the day: if you could write your very own book, what genre would you go for? Would you go for horror? Would you go for thriller? Would you go for drama? Would you go for sort of comedic? Would you go young adult fiction? Or what's your sort of vibe? Currently, the one that I'm still thinking about working on is like young adult Egyptian themed. Really cool idea. Who knows if I can turn it into something. Anyway, guys, I hope you did enjoy this episode of Storytime with Freak, Storytime with Chrono. If you did, please make sure to hit the like button so we know that you liked the videos. Hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date, and hit the notification bell so you know when to stay up to date. And share it with your friends if you want. Save it to your favorites. Do all that good stuff. Anyway, guys, peace out.